All right, all right. Sorry that I'm a little bit late. Had to run a couple errands, and it took a little bit longer than I thought. And by the time I got back here, back home, I had to run around and get stuff ready. So a little bit late today, but here I am. And yeah, so if you're tuning in and you want to say hi in the comments, I love seeing who's out there and where you're tuning in from. Um, so yeah, so again, sorry that I'm a little bit late today. All right, so man, like I said, I just kind of was rushing around, so trying to like focus and get going with what I want to do today. So what I was thinking about is using some stamps. Now I'm not a big like rubber stamp kind of person. I don't have like boxes and bins of stamps that I've bought over the years. Actually, I really prefer to kind of make my own things. So if I'm using stencils, I love kind of using stencils that I've made myself. Except for like letter stencils and that punchinella and those sort of like found things. That's because they're kind of generic. So stamps, I've never really got into like doing stamping and what but over the years though, I've kind of created some little kind of my own stamps and I want to kind of use those, at least start out today and kind of see where things are going. Maybe I'll go back to some drawing that like I was doing yesterday. Um, but yeah, so today is the 17th day, I believe. So yeah, this journal's coming along, and I appreciate you being here and tuning in and working if you are along with me. If you're just watching, awesome. So anyway, let me go ahead and switch over, talk about what I have, because here's the thing. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big rubber stamper. So I don't have any like ink. So I use something else. There's a couple of different things that you can use, and I want to kind of talk about that because I don't have all these like stamp pads around. I just have the rubber stamps. Actually, I think I have one rubber stamp pad that's a black, but of course I don't want to always use black. So the thing is, the reason that I don't like buy rubber stamps and I don't buy stencils is that I like using my own images. I like using the things that I've developed. I'm not against people, buying stamps and buying stencils that were designed by other people, but I just kind of feel like, I can design my own. I can make my own, and I like sort of simple, generic kind of stamps, and I like to cut my own stencils. So, but that's just me, So some people like to do other things as well. So, anyway, anyway, let me go ahead and switch this over. So I've got my little book, of course, and then here are some of the stamps that I've made. And all these is a carvable pink rubber, and I think it's Speedball brand, and you can carve it with some printmaking tools, pretty easy. So I made several stamps over the last couple of years, a couple different spirals, and there's that leaf shape. Actually, I think it's kind of appropriate that I have this. So I feel like I want to make more of these and have different sizes, but this is great because it does tie in with shapes that I've been using. Okay. Like I said, I don't have stamp pads. And so what I use, there's a couple different things. I could use my paint. So I could take and paint the watercolor on it and stamp with it. I find sometimes that doesn't work all that great. So what I find that works really great is that since I don't have a bunch of stamp pads, I do have a big box of just basic Crayola markers. Yeah, these are water-based, and so they'll blend and bleed if I get them wet. They might not be archival, but I really don't care about that. The nice thing is that this has 40 different colors in it, and so I can pick and choose colors, and I don't have to have an entire bin full of different stamp pads. I have also in the past used the Faber-Castell Pitt pens, and they have, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, they have ones that are a brush tip. So it's a little bit thicker. Unfortunately, it's not a really big tip, so sometimes the ink will kind of dry before you can kind of get it all covered. But I find that the Crayola markers work great. So that's what I'm going to be using today to do some stamping. And so just trying to like flip through, find a space where that might work. This might be kind of interesting to do it here. I think I'm going to do the leaf, and I actually put an arrow on the back so that, okay, that is what I consider pointing up, and so then I can turn that in different directions. I wish now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I wish I had a bigger one. Maybe that's something I'll do here someday. But anyway, I'm just going to pick, since I have a blue theme, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let's go with something a little bit more green. So here's a teal. And so all I do is, with the Crayola markers, they have a conical tip, a cone tip. So I just kind of use a side and just color it pretty quickly. And then a little tip that I heard from somebody is if you kind of breathe on it, if you just kind of exhale on it, that sort of just keeps it moistened. And then you can stamp it. So it's just a nice and easy way to kind of do some stamping. So like I said, I have that arrow, so I kind of can determine which direction I want the leaf to be kind of pointing. And maybe this one will have a point in this direction. So one thing that I like to consider is the entire space of the page. So even with like a stamp, I can stamp and have it go off of the edge. That may or may not go off the edge. Oh, it does. So what's really interesting, excuse me, what's really interesting is that the crack that I made kind of now starts to read as a tree branch because of the leaf shapes. Okay, I think I'll do one more with this color. Excuse me. Take a drink of my tea while I'm doing this. Okay. So I've got some down. Now I think what I'm going to do is turn and use a different color. Maybe try to find something that is maybe a little bit darker. So here's a dark green called Emerald. And because these colors are so close, I'm not even going to worry about cleaning the stamp. Excuse me. Seem to have a little frog in my throat. I think maybe do one more here. And do it right over here. Okay. So yeah, that works pretty well. And the idea is that, yeah, it's this marker is water soluble. So if I paint over it, it's going to bleed. But, it's like I probably won't add any more water to this page. And even if I do, it might be really interesting that it bleeds. So now kind of thinking about, I've got this here. So just like other things, I want to maybe pick out places where I can do more of that. And all right, I think here with my cicada. And what I'm thinking is maybe I'll do more of a pattern. I'm going to use the leaf again, but I think I want to use more of the reddish colors. So this has green on it, not going to be really good for um, my red. So the way I clean these off is I just take a paper towel, got my cup of water over there, my paint water, and then I can just wipe it off. And then it's ready. So I think I'll want a reddish color, but it's like, which red? Oh, let's just call it dry red. And so what I'm thinking about is that like I want to do a pattern and I want them all to be the same, and that's where the arrow comes in handy. So do I want it that way or do I want it this way? I think I want it this way. Um, so the Crayola markers just have that fat side that just make it easy to color it down. Oh, I forgot how I was holding it. I want to kind of go more sideways. There we go. So, so the cicadas have finally really started to emerge over the weekend. It was really warm, and so now you go outside and you just can hear them all over the place. They're very loud. Okay, so go ahead and wipe that off. So, like I was saying, this ink is water soluble. It's not necessarily archival, but the thing is that this uh, everything that's in this book, it's going to stay in this book. It's not like it's going to be out in direct sunlight, and over the years it might deteriorate a little bit. But because it's water soluble, what happens if I do paint over it? It doesn't totally wash away because it does sort of soak into the paper. So sometimes it's fun to play around with materials that you know are water soluble. Let some of that red transfer. I might come in here with some drawings. I'm gonna go ahead and hit that with the hair dryer, and I'll go ahead and mute it so I don't, you don't have to listen to it. All right. So I think I am going to go back to some of my pens and just really thinking about these pages here now that I've started, but I haven't done a lot to them yet. I might think about adding some collage, but I think today I'm just going to go back with the pens. You know, I've got the web imagery here. It might be interesting to see that web imagery somewhere else. I think what I'll start off with, I have some of these thin lines. Let me grab one of my black pens. I think I did that with the extra super fine. And so just thinking about how these might come across. So again, I'm still thinking about how pages can connect. I've got some pencils, so I think I'm going to grab my pencil or a pencil. And the thing is, like, this pencil mark might not even show up very much. And it might get lost, and it does get lost in some of the layers, but it just becomes a thread that runs through. And I like on the magazine that it goes on top of the magazine, it draws on it, but it also makes an indentation. But just that idea of having that thread go through. And that, I'm thinking that might be something to explore a little bit later. Sometimes I think of the work as kind of like a chronicle of life, and that you know, the buildup of sorry, trying to talk and draw at the same time sometimes doesn't quite work. The buildup of the layers kind of represent like the buildup of your experiences over time. So I like doing things like this. I don't know if you can really see it, but that pencil mark goes this way, and then when I open it up, it'd be really cool if that, I never thought about it. I should have let that connect there. Oh well, such is life. But yeah, so I think I'll probably go back at some point and really make maybe a single line. Like, you know, I have all these lines and they do connect, but maybe there's a single line that will end up running through all of the pages later. I don't know. Wait and see. Yeah, might as well make it go all the way to the end. And like I was saying, I don't know, this line will get covered up. There'll be layers on top of it. Just the fact that it goes through multiple pages. I find that kind of an interesting idea. I think I want to go back. When I was going through with the line, where was that space with the face? So I don't know when I had done it, but I drew little thin black lines that come from the word shadow. And I just kind of feel like now might be a good time to kind of go back to those. Let me pull out a slightly thicker pen. So I really love the bold lines here, the bold lines around the rectangle. So I want maybe some slightly darker lines, thicker lines, but not as bold. These lines could become the basis of a web like I did yesterday. Looking at these stamped leaves again, I just kind of think maybe here, maybe be good to kind of try to stamp a few leaves there. And I think I'll use, this is a golden yellow. So if you're interested in learning how to create your own stamps and your own stencils, I do have an archived class. So last summer I taught, it was a live class when I taught it, but then I recorded the videos, but you can still register for it on my website. And it was a 5-day class, 4-day class. But it was all about creating your own stamps and stencils. So you can sign up for it and watch those. I'll send you links to the archive, the recorded classes. I think I want to do something on this page. When I was tracing the lines, just really felt like I wanted a darker value around the word shadow. And I think I'll do that with my Inktense pencils. So this is kind of one of those days where I'm just jumping around with the materials, allowing that intuitive voice that I've mentioned before. That's why I flip through, looking at things, and then just noticing. And then, sometimes there's just well, not sometimes, but oftentimes there's this like little voice in my head that just says, "Ooh, it might be really cool to try this." And I've just learned to listen to that over the years. A lot of times, I think when we hear a voice, that little voice inside, we're like, "Oh no!" We start to like try to like shut it down, or sometimes we just ignore it, or we let the inner critic kind of take over. So a little bit of indigo blue creates a nice contrast with the color. All right, I just had another little voice in my head. I was just thinking, like, what if this became a different color? And so I was thinking, I've got my paint, and so I want something that's going to not cover, like, really cover up the black. Not that it really would, but I'm just going to use this yellow. It's a real bright yellow, and it's going to kind of create a yellowish glow over it. And because it's kind of orange underneath, so I'll get this nice golden yellow and golden orange. And thinking about color, that then really starts to contrast the fuchsia. The fuchsia is kind of a magenta type color, and just kind of it's on the verge of a purple. So it's kind of almost like a red violet, maybe just a little shy of a red violet. But then I've got the blue, so the blue and the fuchsia together really suggests purple. And then thinking about complementary colors, yellow's opposite purple on the color wheel. And so that just brings a lot of contrast now. So the blue created contrast with the fuchsia, but now the yellow really kind of creates some more contrast. So yeah, so I like that. Actually, maybe strengthen some of that yellow. All right, let me hit that with the hair dryer. Okay. So like that spread really starts to feel, I don't want to say complete or finished. I really don't like those words, complete or finished, because Picasso once said that artwork is never finished; it just stops in interesting places. But it's like more and more of these pages are feeling more completed, more resolved. I like that word, resolved. I'm feeling like with this, because of the face, it might be really interesting to do something inside of here that is really contrasting the outside. And my first thought is to kind of do some lines, thinking that maybe laying the groundwork for a web that goes in there. And so maybe this will be more self-contained. So I think I'm just going to draw a bunch of lines. So I keep closing it because I just want to see those lines in there and kind of like where they're lining up, because I really want to see them through the gap that's there. And so trying to envision, like, if this was the web, these lines are much thicker. Like what does that kind of look like? All right, so as I'm sitting here, I'd drawn the profile with a pen, and some of the black ink was here and some of the black ink is there. So I just kind of feel like I want to go back now. I've got my little card so I don't get ink on the inside, and just take one of my thicker black pens. And so that index card just keeps the ink from getting on the page underneath. getting down here at the bottom. But what I love, like you can, I don't know if you can see some of the ink that got on there, but what I love is the fact that that kind of like scrap paper then can become something that I glue in. All these random things happen to it, and it really can be a really interesting thing. And then do the same thing over here. Okay. Yeah, like that bold line. What's interesting is that just by seeing it there on the screen, it's hard to tell that that is a cutout. And it kind of looks like just right now, it just looks like a double profile. All right. Well, I think that's a good stopping point for today. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm thinking I want to get some more words and some more messages and meaning into it. So maybe I'll kind of focus on that. I still have all that writing that I did on the tracing paper. Maybe I'll try to figure out a way to use that. But anyway, so yeah, so I think that's going to wrap that up for today. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully I keep giving you some ideas to work on in your journal or on your own artwork. Really appreciate you being here. Did notice that there were a few new people that were tuning in. So if you wanted to see more of these videos, they are archived here on Facebook, on my Facebook page, and they are also, I put them on YouTube as well. So you can see the entire series. So since the beginning of May, I've been coming here every weekday, 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, working this little journal. So I started, it was totally blank, and I've been filling it up since. So if you missed any of that, or if you miss a day where you can't see it, can't join me live, you can always catch it later. So anyway, I really appreciate you being here. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to pop them in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you tomorrow, same time. So thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, happy creating.